Welcome. What is up? Welcome to the Mixer. Uh, I am your host, RC. I think it missed. I think it cut off the beginning there. Well, welcome
There
in.
you go.
Welcome in. Either way, I am your host, RC. I'm joined by my co-host here, Jeff. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It was nice to have the 3-day weekend, even though I didn't really get to relax any of the 3 days. But it was nice. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy belated MLK Junior Day to everybody out there. Happy inauguration eve. And happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Happy NFL conference championship week. There we
Yeah.
go. Yeah, big week ahead. Big week ahead. I'm excited. Lots of sports to talk. Let's get into it. Almost. Don't forget, us. Like us on our social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at FC Wine Mixer. You can find videos of our recordings here on YouTube, the Mixer channel. You can see Jeff's lovely face. It's all cleaned up now. The blemishes from last week did not carry over into this week. You can see
No, they
me
did not.
rocking my Padres swag, ready for this season to get rolling. Already looking ahead, and don't forget we have a survey. Take our Survey Monkey survey. Give us some input, some feedback about the show. Maybe you want shorter episodes. Maybe you want episodes more often. Maybe you want me to actually make an attempt at editing, which I'm going to do anyway. Just give us some feedback. What's the content you like? Do you want more fantasy stuff? Do you want more just kind of regular betting stuff? Do you not care about the betting? Do you not care about fantasy? Like, let us know so that way we can kind of go down a direction that's going to benefit the majority of our listeners here as we hopefully grow. And yeah, as I get more accustomed to this. As always, we love you guys. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for listening. Next up, let's get in our negativity now. This week's tilts. Jeff, do you have any tilts?
I do have one actually. I was coaching at a baseball tournament on Sunday, and like midway through the day, I just started to get this pain in my foot, like bottom of my foot, right? I've had a few friends recently have plantar fasciitis, stuff like that. This isn't really towards my heel, which I know plantar fasciitis tends to be like middle towards the heel, like back of your foot.
Yeah.
This is more like towards the front, like not quite to where my toes are, but more like the ball of my foot. Honestly have no clue what I did. All I was doing was coaching. I wasn't like running. I was really mostly just standing, sitting around kind of thing. And it just started to hurt. It's not like, I mean, if I wanted to, I could go run, right now. It's not that big of a deal. It's just more of an annoyance. But it's one of those things that like, where'd it come from? Like, what did I even do? Like all that stuff. So
yeah,
that's
relatable, my friend. Relatable, random old man pains. It'll creep up on you. The other day, I mean, this ties into my tilt, but I mean, I was just now whenever I wear shoes with not that much arch support, if I wear them around for more than like 2 or 3 hours a day, the next day my knees are just like gone.
Ooh.
So I was over at the in-laws over the weekend, and I had some Chuck All-Stars on and chasing my daughter around, and then the next day my knees were just, it was out of command. I mean, I can still move around. It just like they just felt unstable.
Right.
Which is new. So yeah. I feel you there. Random old man pains, even though nobody cares, they are a thing. Speaking of which, my tilt this week is said active daughter. Oh man. I got my hands full. I wanted a little athlete. I think the Lord was good. The simulation was good, and granted me an active child, but man, did I not know what I was getting into. She climbs everything. Number one, you can't turn your eyes away. She's learned how to get on our dining room table, which is like bar table, like bar high chair height.
Yeah.
So she's figured that out. She can go up and down stairs now, and one of her new favorite things is to climb on some chairs, the little kid baby chairs. And we were at the in-laws. She was standing on the back of a chair. I was exhausted from chasing her around for 3 hours already. So I'm like, looking over at her. I was like, I should probably get her off of that. But I'm sitting. Sure enough, lost her balance a little bit. Landed, put her hand out, and her like thumb got pinched in between the back of the chair and the ground. And I go right to her, and I see her thumbs like already like bleeding and it's swollen. I'm like, I thought she broke her thumb. I was like, instant fear, instant panic. Yeah. And anyway, it's not that big of a deal. But the next day, I went to check it to see if it was bothering her. She cried for like 5 or 10 minutes. She's a champ as far as it comes to pain. But I went to check it the next day, and I like grabbed her thumb, and she pulled it away, and then just started like hitting me,
There you go.
Like, squealing at me. I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, hey, all right. You don't want the trainer. You're waving him off. No blue tent for you. So that's where we're at. She's good. She's good. Just a ding. She's hurt, not injured. So
there you
go.
Way to make that distinction. Get her, train her early on that one.
No IL stint for her. No questionable tag. She is expected to play.
There you go.
Yeah. So those are the tilts. My daughter, to quote the great Andy Reid, is like sweet and sour pork. She makes me feel young and old at the same time. I guess the other tilt is COVID 2.0. The new strains are hot in the streets, so be safe out there, everybody. Just remember, Mandalorians always wear their mask. Maybe you should too. This is the way. Let's do it. Let's get into some NFL division round playoffs review. We had 4 games. No classics here, but some competitive matchups. We had the Packers host the Rams, the Bills hosted the Ravens, Chiefs hosted the Browns, and the Bucs were at the Saints. Let's start off, I guess in chronological order here. The first game was Packers Rams. This game didn't really seem to be out of the Packers' control. At any point, it seemed like the Packers were able to do what they wanted. Maybe even held back a little bit, but yeah, the Packers in Lambeau are moving on. They win 32-18. I guess the headline would be Sean McVay. Sean McVay is the Rams head coach, right? Who am I getting him confused?
Yeah.
Why am I getting him confused with the Saints coach? Anyway, after the game, he said that there's no commitment to Jared Goff moving forward. So, he was efficient, 21 of 27, but only got 174 yards. Cam Akers got 90 on the ground, but yeah. And then another story is, we'll get into their defensive coordinator getting poached away by the Chargers. We'll get into that later. But Jeff, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so I'm in a not quite a pick'em tournament for the playoffs, but it's I did one during the regular season, and the guy who ran it is continuing it for the playoffs. And basically, you have to pick each game with the spread, right? So you're not just picking winners. You have to, pick how much they're going to win by, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Out of all 4 games, this one was, in my mind, the easiest one to pick. I think the line that they gave us was like Packers -6.5 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first one I wrote down. Watching it all weekend, it was like you said, the Packers kind of had it the whole way, right? Like it wasn't like a complete blowout kind of thing, but it was a pretty like we're up by 2 scores most of the game kind of game.
Yeah.
And, so that's really my thought on that. I was a little disappointed we didn't get more of the Jalen Ramsey, Devontae Adams matchup necessarily. The Packers seem to do a good job moving him around and kind of avoiding that direct matchup. As we know, if you watch football, Jalen is, if not the best corner in the league, one of the best corners in the league.
Yeah.
And Devontae is, at least this year, I think kind of hands down the best receiver in the league. Although Stephon Diggs might have a case, but like Devontae's just so good.
Yeah.
But Devontae ends the game with 10 for 120 and a touchdown or something like that.
Not quite. I mean, you're good on the receptions. He didn't get that many yards though. He only got 66 yards, 9 receptions.
Oh, I thought he had more.
66 yards. He got a touchdown. So,
yeah, he got the touchdown early, but yeah, I mean that game overall was fairly predictable, especially with Aaron Donald not being able to play every snap, Jared Goff not being 100%. A plus for the Rams, looks like they may have found another Todd Gurley and Cam Akers. He looks really good. But yeah, I mean that's really it right there.
Yeah, the Rams just were outclassed here, outmatched, hobbled Jared Goff. Couldn't do enough. I mean, really, the Rams' only chance was getting a turnover, maybe a pick six, grabbing some momentum, but Rodgers is just clinical. 23 of 36, 296, 2 touchdowns. They were spreading the ball around on the ground. Aaron Jones had 14 carries. Jamal Williams had 12. A.J. Dillon had 6. So really balanced attack. I think their Packers are the favorite heading into the next round here. So
yeah,
moving on. We'll move on. Bills Ravens next. The evening Saturday night game. A defensive struggle for the most part, but this one was quite entertaining. It was very windy, much like it is outside today here in not so sunny San Diego, at least where I'm at. The Ravens started off the game with 3 chunk runs. It was at least 2 chunk runs, but maybe 3 from Gus Edwards. And I don't know if the Bills just weren't expecting it or what, or if they were just more focused on containing Lamar to start things out. But I mean, right away they were into the Bills side of the field, and I mean, it looked like the route might be on, or at least a high scoring game since they were moving down the field so quick on the ground. But then I think they had a penalty, and I think it came down to a Tucker field goal, and then he missed, and then that just kind of set the tone for the game. There was, I think, 3 missed field goals. Tucker missed 2. You never see him do that. I mean, it was windy.
right.
Josh Allen at one point seemed to get hurt. The broadcast, they didn't really talk about it, but it was right before the end of the first half. He went down. I thought he landed on his hand. It looked like he was kind of favoring it, but didn't hear anything on that. However, I believe I heard that he had his most inaccurate day. He was 23 of 37 for 206 and a touchdown. He only ran for 3 yards. Usually he runs for quite a bit more. I mean, he's their rushing and passing attack. They hardly ever rush the ball, it seems. Diggs had a big day, but I mean, really the story here is the Ravens and Lamar Jackson couldn't get it done, and they lose 17-3. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so this was the one game I missed this weekend. I thought the Bills were the better team, but I thought the Ravens would cover the 3 points kind of thing. starting the game with what did they start with 2 missed field goals, and then they got a third, or they made the third one later, if I remember right.
I'm not entirely sure. I know they had a few misses.
Yeah, and you brought up the wind. It's always, we see rain, snow, like a lot of that stuff doesn't seem to bother these guys. It's wind that tends to bother quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed to bother both of them. I thought Baltimore was kind of built better to win a game like this because of their proficiency on the ground versus the Bills, who are definitely more through the air these days. It never helps when your star quarterback gets hurt midway through the third quarter or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Lamar goes out and they have to bring in the Huntley kid, who I thought he represented himself really well, considering he was on the practice squad just like a week or two ago, I think. But he's not Lamar, obviously. Lamar obviously wasn't playing great, but neither was Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Anytime the game's within 1 or 2 scores, you have a chance. And once Lamar went out, they didn't really have a chance after that. It was actually directly opposite to what happened in the next game we'll talk about, Kansas City, where Mahomes goes out, but they were already ahead, right?
Yeah.
Much harder to come back without your starter than it is to keep a lead without your starter.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Lamar Jackson did go out with a concussion in the third. Like you said, Tyler Huntley came in. He had a chance down the sideline to land a big play. I think it was the Boykin who was wide open. He overthrew him. I noted. I mean, they called it out on the broadcast, but rewatching the game, also saw Josh Allen do the same thing. I mean, it was almost the same area of the field, so it's not like he missed that throw. I think the broadcast got it right because Josh Allen missed the same throw to Diggs early in the game. I mean, the turning point to this game was in the third quarter when the Ravens were going in to score, and Buffalo got that pick six. That was pretty much all she wrote after that.
And that's for people to understand. That's likely a minimum 10-point swing, if not a 14-point swing, right? Because the Ravens, if they score a touchdown, that's 7 on their side versus the Bills getting the 7, right? So that's the 14 points. If the Ravens have to settle for a field goal, right? I mean, heck, even if they miss the field goal, it's a 7-point swing, right? So that's just such a huge play right there.
Yeah, it was brutal. I mean, Bills fans, I could just hear the tables being smashed from here when that play happened. I mean, the Bills had a great season, but the Ravens, they've had probably one of the most hyped teams. Everybody thought it was going to be the Chiefs and the Ravens really battling it out this year, and the winner of AFC would win the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson is now, I think, 1-3 in playoff games.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's still young, but it is a trend. Are you worried at all about Lamar Jackson not being able to get it done in the playoffs?
I mean, not really. There's so few guys that are like good in the playoffs, if that makes sense. I think that what happens is Baltimore is a very good football team, but like any team, they aren't like significantly better than other good teams in the league. So when you get into the playoffs, if you're a little bit off or if you don't just have it that day, you're probably more susceptible to losing. I think something that would help Baltimore is if they had, instead of Arizona doing it, if Baltimore had gone out and gotten DeAndre Hopkins, I think that could have helped them a lot this year because as we've seen, In my mind, Marquise Brown is not a number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
I think he's likely a very good complement. I think his peak is probably more Tyler Lockett than it is Tyreek Hill, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where he could be like a 1B, but he's probably not a 1A.
Yeah. Yeah. I see him. I mean, Lockett's a great comparison. I would say maybe, somewhere between Lockett and John Brown.
Yeah.
I mean, that John Brown doesn't have as many blow up games, but he's capable of being that deep threat. Last year, I mean, when the Ravens were scoring 50 points every game, it seemed like they were hitting those big plays, which I mentioned before are high variance, and then they were kind of moving the ball down the field with Mark Andrews, and then running the ball with Mark Ingram, who just fell off a cliff. Didn't he got busted for PEDs though last season, didn't he? So
At some point in his career, he did.
Yeah, I think it might have been the end of last season. Anyway, shouldn't speculate on stuff like that. Now it sounds like the Ravens are going to cut him. So I mean, there's something missing from this Ravens offense. I'm not ready to have the hot take that Lamar is just not gonna be the type of quarterback that we all thought he was after last season. It's just 1 year. I don't know if it's Harbaugh and his approach. I don't know too much about the OC, but there with Lamar Jackson as a quarterback and what he is capable of, I would think, you'd be able to get something going. But the OC I think was the same guy who was involved with Kaepernick when he had his big years, and then Cap kind of fell off. So maybe it's just one of those scheme things where once defenses figure it out, it's not that hard to defend. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is that they rely very much on running. And as the NFL evolves, we've seen that rushing is not nearly as efficient as passing, right? Yeah. And so teams that tend to rely on rushing, i.e. the Titans with a 2,000-yard running back, go out in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not just because you have the best rushing attack nowadays doesn't mean you're a great team anymore. Yeah. You got to be able to throw the ball. And I think Lamar can throw the ball, but I don't think he's not a Drew Brees type thrower, right? He needs a guy that is going to help him out, that can go catch the ball. I think, someone like a DeAndre Hopkins, I think like a Mike Evans or something like that, or for, people that are a little bit older, maybe Vincent Jackson, who was more than happy to go up and get the ball, right? I think those type of receivers would benefit Lamar a lot, because then he could throw the ball and not worry as much, right? Not have to be as accurate, because those guys are going to help him out and go get it, right? Yeah. And when I mean accurate, like Lamar's clearly accurate. He's one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the world, right? So the guy can throw a football. So please don't take me saying he needs someone to help him out as a diss.
Yeah.
But he's not Drew Brees. He's not Tom Brady, right? So I mean, we've seen with Josh Allen, I think, is a great comparison. Josh Allen's notorious for his lack of accuracy, and then he gets a true wide receiver one this year with Stephon Diggs, and he puts up the best year of his life, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to help these guys out.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what they do in the offseason. There are plenty of wide receiver free agents that hopefully we can get into some free agent stuff in the coming weeks that I would like to go over. I mean, there are a lot of names out there, so the potential is going to be there. Hopefully the Ravens correct it somehow. Lamar Jackson games are fun to watch, so let's get this team rolling. I want to see more of them in the playoffs. That's my message to Ravens fans. Moving on, The Chiefs hosted your Cleveland Browns. Jeff, Mahomes got concussed, or if you believe those online calling the concussion fake news, some are saying that he was actually choked out. So I don't know what to make of that. We also had the worst rule in all of sports make an appearance. So, I mean, just to recap how the game unfolded a bit here, the Chiefs jumped out to a 19-3 lead. And then Mahomes gets hurt, I believe, in the third quarter. And the Browns made a run at a comeback. The turning point in this game, it turned out to be the difference was, I believe it was the end of the second quarter. The Browns were moving the ball down the field. They had a play. I believe it was Jarvis Landry, right? Jarvis Landry made a catch, headed towards the goal line, stretched the ball out, and had it knocked out. He fumbled. The ball goes out of the back of out of the side of the end zone, and that is a touchback. And the ball switches sides. Everybody on Twitter kept saying worst rule in sports. Jeff, do you have a strong take on this rule about fumbles, change of possession through the end zone?
So let me comment on the play first. If you're going to have a rule that says you can't lower your helmet and hit with the crown of your helmet, right? And like if you do, it's a flag, automatic first down, all that good stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then, like for anyone that goes and rewatches this play or remembers it, saw it live or whatever, a flag clearly should have been thrown on this play for lowering the helmet by the defender. Okay. Now, I don't always agree with when they call it, but this is one situation where like this was clearly like helmet to helmet, like crown of the helmet to offensive player's helmet.
Yeah.
Flag should have been thrown, and this rule never should have even come into play. First off. Secondly, I don't know if it's the worst rule in all of sports, but it's bad. Like I don't know how you fix it. To be honest, like I don't know how you fix it because like some defenses of the rule that I saw on Twitter were every rule in the NFL benefits the offense these days, right? Like what's wrong with benefiting the defense?
Yeah.
To an extent, that was like the view, right? I don't necessarily agree with that. But I don't disagree with it either, right? Because like everything is becoming very offensive focused and promoting the offense and stuff like that, right? So like I don't have a strong feeling either way. I don't think this should be a turnover though, right? Like it's not a. I mean, if anything, I think it should be like the general rule in the field of play, and that the ball just goes back to where it was fumbled from, right? Like that's my initial thought. I think if you're going to give the defense the ball, in my opinion, give them the ball from where the ball was fumbled, right? So, like, if you're going to penalize the offense, I'm actually okay with that. But, like, if this ball was fumbled on the 1, let the other team take over on the 1 then, right? Like, that's just kind of my view. Because, like, they're not doing anything to get the ball. Like, it's not like they recovered it. Like, the ball goes out of the end zone, you know? I guess that's just my view. Like, yeah, I think it's obviously different if the defense falls on it, right? And they recover it, it's in their possession, then they get the touchback. But like,
Yeah.
it goes out of bounds. Like, yeah, they forced the fumble, but they didn't do anything to like recover it. The ball just happened to go out of bounds.
Yeah, I hear you.
Seems kind of weird to penalize a team for that, but you know, again, I don't think it's the worst rule in sports. But I do think it's up there.
Yeah. I agree with you there. That it's not the best rule. It's not the best rule for sure. I was trying to think of an analogy for this rule because it's such a turn of events. You know, the only thing I can think of, I mean, the lame comparisons that I came up with were like when you're playing Uno and then you get hit with the draw four or something. It's like a game changer. You know,
It
I
is.
can't I can't really, but I mean, it's obviously more you know, more consequential than a freaking draw four and Uno. But yeah, I couldn't think of anything else. I don't even think it's the worst rule in football. If we're being honest,
So
I was trying to think.
yeah.
I was trying to think of some, and I mean, just in all of sports, but I thought of two in football that are worse in my mind. I mean, the one that I really have a hard time. Well, I mean, just making a catch in general in the NFL is dumb, but especially when it's in the end zone. Like I feel like if you possess the ball in the end
Like
zone and you
the
have
Chris
2 feet
Godwin one the
down,
other day,
yeah, I was gonna say like the Godwin play, because
where he
I
gets
mean,
both feet down,
and he
flips
has the
over.
ball. Yeah,
Yeah.
that should be it. That's it. The touchdown. Whatever happens after that, the play doesn't matter. You know, but he goes out of bounds and he hits the ground and it pops out. And so
Right.
it's not a catch. But I mean, he caught it, he had both feet down, like in theory that's it. You know, it's not like when somebody goes into the end zone on a running play, they have to then carry it all the way to the sideline and like kneel down or something. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I the logistics of the game, if it were like a computer thing, you know, that ends the play like that, the score
Right.
goes on the board. And I kind of have, a personal gripe about this. Yeah, I used to play lacrosse, and there's a crease in lacrosse, and there was kind of like the same thing. If you scored and then went into the crease after the ball was in the back of the net, the goal got disallowed. And I had this one I mean, I had this one very, very nice goal, I should say, and it got called back because I did that. And I was just like, what? Come on. You're gonna
Yeah.
you're not gonna count that one? That was like one of my best plays ever. And I went in
Yeah.
the crease like a full second after the ball went in the net. Just my momentum carried me. So yeah, that one's dumb.
Right. Yeah. I'm uh, not a fan of the catch rule in the end zone. I'm okay with it uh, on the like regular field of play. Like it kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But in the end zone, like when a runner, as you brought up, crosses the goal line, the play is blown dead immediately. So
Yeah.
why is the play not blown dead immediately once like the guy has two hands on it, both feet are down, right? Who cares if he goes all the way through the ground, right? Like we don't care if a runner's in the air and they hit the ground.
Yeah.
Uh,
And where do you draw the line? I mean, there's the freaking cameraman at the edge of the goal line. You always got the cheerleaders going back there when it's about to be halftime. Like, if somebody runs into them, I don't know. It's just that one annoys me more. I mean, the current state of onside kicks too is just terrible. So I mean, that's another one in NFL that I think
I
is
will.
worse.
I will say, in my personal opinion, all those rules are bad and could be better. The worst rule, and the reason I would say this is the worst rule in football, is because of how often it could be called and isn't, but is offensive pass interference versus defensive pass interference, right? Like defenders can't touch an offensive player, it feels like, but offensive players all the time push off and
Yeah.
very rarely get called. And I think it's a significantly worse rule just because it happens all the time. And so, that's my personal opinion. But again, all of these rules are bad and they
Yeah.
need to just be made better.
So calm down, capital J journalists. Stop stop tweeting for the likes in the retweets, the interaction. We know your employers get the impression numbers, but get out of here with that hyperbole. There are worse rules in sports and in the NFL. Back to the game. So, yeah, we mentioned Mahomes got out. Was taken out with his toe was hurting first off, and then he got concussed / choked out, depending on the color of your tie and where you get your news from. But the Browns made a comeback. They made it 22-17 early in the fourth quarter. At one point it was 22-17. There were 10 minutes to go. The Chiefs got the ball. They were at like their 20. There was a big chunk play that Henne hit to Kelsey that got them into Browns territory. And then Henne threw a pick. So the Browns got the ball back. They were down, a score with, I think, 8-ish minutes to go. And then the Browns couldn't really mount a drive. It was just this frustrating, 8 or 9 play drive where they only got 15 or 20 yards or something before they had to punt and then, eventually lost that game on that next possession. So Jeff, as a Browns fan, do you have any disappointment that, obviously that the Browns couldn't pull it off, so you're disappointed in general at that, but do you feel like the Browns should have been able to get this one down and take advantage of Mahomes going out?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think if they had started the game with Mahomes out and they lost, I think I'd definitely be a little disappointed there. Mahomes goes out and they were already losing the game. They did a good job coming back and never giving up, per se. But I was disappointed at the end of the game. Not the end, but the Browns' last drive. I was actually really excited initially. Browns had it on their own 30-something, and maybe it's their own 20-something, and had 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 and went for it, right? With 5 or 6 minutes left in the game. I was excited they did. I'm a huge proponent of pretty much going for it on every 4th down, also going for 2 every time if you can. That's just my personal opinion. But it was really awesome to see them go for it in that situation in their own territory. They're losing the game, right? They need to keep the ball and score. But then with I think it was 4.5 minutes left, they kept the ball for another couple minutes, but they had 4th and 9 or 4th and 8. They were still in their own territory. But it was in that situation where if you punt it away, you may not get the ball back, right? Yeah. And at this point, I'm a fan of, I think one of the reasons I lean towards going for it a lot is I would rather control my own destiny than rely on the other team.
Yeah.
And in my mind, the team with the ball is the one that's in control, right? Some people would say, oh, well, you trust your defense. You still feel like you're in control. But in reality, you're not. You have no control over what plays being called. You have no control over what the other team does at that point, right? You only have control when you have the ball.
Right.
So for me, especially given they had just gone for it on 4th down, then to punt with 4.5 minutes left and the timeout situation, Kansas City really only needed to get 1 first down and the game would essentially be over, right? And that's what happened, right? It was also disappointing that they let Henne run for 15 yards on a 3rd down or something.
Yeah.
That was frustrating, but overall, I thought the Browns had a very successful season. Again, a little bit disappointing, but the end result was better than what it looked like it was going to be early on in the game, where it looked like it was going to be like a 30-10 game, right? So, but yeah, I mean, not too disappointed, but a little upset.
Yeah, how the game unfolded, the Browns. I mean, it seemed like they tried to get Baker going early. That didn't really work. They switched to the run. The run, Kareem Hunt and Chubb were able to get some chunk yards. I know Chubb had a big run to open up the second half. I mean, they only finished with, Chubb got 69 nice yards on the ground. Kareem Hunt got 32, but the Browns, it felt like a piece was missing again. I don't know if that is OBJ, who's got hurt early in the year. They brought in Austin Hooper in the offseason. He never really gave the production that the Browns were hoping for. I mean, when OBJ was in, he didn't really get the production they're hoping for, and then you get this chance on the road, and Baker's handed the ball, and you can't get it going. I guess my question is, how are you feeling about Baker as the quarterback of the Browns moving forward, Jeff?
I mean, I'm not worried at all, really. It was, an interesting season. It was no training camp, brand new coach, brand new system, right?
Where would you rank him? Like top 10? Top
QBs?
half?
Like how are we ranking this? Like in terms of like how good they are right now? Or
How about we do a
want them going
hypothetical?
forward?
Who would you rather have? Would you rather have, we'll start with the rookies. Would you rather have Jalen Hurts or Baker?
Baker.
Would you rather have Tua or Baker?
Baker.
Would you rather have Joe Burrow or Baker?
That's getting closer, but I'd probably lean Baker.
Herbert?
I don't know. That's one I could probably make the case for in my mind of taking Herbert. But they ran such different offenses this year. Herbert and the Chargers ran more plays per game. They threw the ball more, right? I don't know. I think I'd probably lean Baker just because I like what I see out of him. Not that I don't like what I see out of Herbert, but I just have a little bit more of a track record with Baker. He wasn't bad this year. He wasn't as good as I think we would want him to be. But again, he's also, he had 26 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. That's big, right?
Mm.
He throws for 3,500 yards, but he did it on 480 pass attempts, right? He's not even throwing, I don't even know if the Browns are in the top half of the league of pass attempts, right? So, his yards per attempt is 7.5, which is solid. It's not breaking any records, but it's better than, some guys who are in the 6 range.
I just feel like they drafted Baker to be more than a game manager, and it feels like that's what he's kind of developing into. What about some free agent quarterbacks or quarterbacks that might be on the move? I would assume you would take Deshaun Watson over Baker Mayfield. He's being rumored on the trade block. I would assume you would take Baker over Carson Wentz. Why am I spacing out? What about Jameis Winston, who I don't know if he's a free agent, but
I believe he is. And that one is a little more difficult, right? I think I would still probably take Baker. But Jameis is, I have Jameis on my dynasty team still.
Yeah.
Jameis was, for a long time in that game on Sunday, looked like the best quarterback in that game, and he only threw one pass.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Um, just for comparison, right? Like Tom Brady threw for 4,600 yards this year. He had 7.6 yards per attempt compared to Baker's 7.4, right? So just a little bit different. But he did it on 610 attempts, right? To Baker's 480. So it's 130 attempts difference. If Baker gets half of those, he's probably over 4,000 yards. Do we look at him a little bit differently this year? You know, um, I don't know. I think Stefanski's a really good head coach. I think he kept things simple this year since they
Mm.
were, brand new. I would be surprised if next year Baker looks like a game manager again. I have a feeling he'll be more. You'll look at him as more of a playmaker at quarterback, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, just like Lamar Jackson, Baker's fun to watch. So I'm rooting for him to do well. I just think the next season or two obviously are going to be pivotal to his to him remaining a starting quarterback because these quarterbacks in development cycles have a short leash. I mean, Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, prime examples of that.
Yeah.
The Browns have a good chance of winning the division next year. So, don't fret, Browns fans. You had a good season. We'll probably see you again here next year in this space. Moving on, we had one more game to recap. The Bucs went on the road to the Superdome. They took care of business, beating the Saints 30-20. The main story from this one is Drew Brees. I guess he went out on a shield. He threw 3 interceptions, just really struggled. And I mean, it was the difference in the game. Tom Brady on the other side of the ball, still getting it done at 43. He was 18 of 33. He only got 199 yards and 2 touchdowns. Leonard Fournette did well on the ground, but I mean, really, those turnovers were the difference in this game, giving the Bucs the short fields to work on. So, Jeff, any thoughts on what is probably Drew Brees' last game and Tom Brady making another conference championship?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I felt bad for Brees. I haven't been the biggest Brees fan the last couple of years because I thought he probably should have retired a couple of years ago. This game really, I think encapsulated why. Like, there was one point where, he threw one pick. I think Devin White picked it off, and he was throwing to Kamara, and Brees throws it, and it looks like he's throwing it as hard as he can, and the ball goes like 15 yards, right?
Yeah.
And gets picked off.
I saw one of the NFL analysts or fantasy guys, share a GIF that said Brees throwing the ball more than 10 yards downfield, and it was an Olympic javelin thrower, like getting a running start.
Yeah. But I hate to say it, but that's what it's looked like for the last 2 or 3 years, right? The difference and the reason he's been able to stay around is because Michael Thomas, Sean Payton, and Alvin Kamara are so good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they've been able to scheme around Brees' lack of arm strength.
Yeah.
In a game where Michael Thomas clearly wasn't 100%, right? Where they don't really have a lot of other weapons outside of Alvin Kamara, and the Buccaneers really said, all right, test us kind of thing. And, the Saints just couldn't pass the test. I thought about halfway through that game, Jameis had thrown the touchdown pass already. And in my mind, I was thinking oh, they should just leave him in the game. He's probably their best chance to win.
Right.
But I mean, I understand it. It's hard. That's your Hall of Fame QB. He's been there for 15 years. This is potentially his last game. Do you really bench him? That's a tough decision.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you can't do it. You can't do that to Breeze. I
Right.
mean, the whole city rallied around the guy after Katrina. Really active in the community, Drew Brees. So yeah, I mean that would have been tough to go out that way. At least he went out slinging it.
Yeah, it is. I will say in reference to Brady, Brady played well, but I like the biggest detraction from Brady I've seen is that
Standing next to Giselle.
no, is
Oh,
that he a lot of times, he has significantly more success in the playoffs than a lot of his contemporaries or a lot of anyone over history, right? But he also is consistently put in better positions than his contemporaries, right? Like one stat I was looking at the other day is that um uh it was something about like Brady's teams in the playoffs when scoring less than 20 points, he's got a winning record and no other quarterback does,
hmm.
right? Like, the game on Sunday, Brady plays well, but the longest touchdown drive they had was 40 yards. Granted, part of that's because they got the turnovers. They didn't have to go very far, right? But and don't get me wrong, I think Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time when you throw in all the achievements, the Super Bowls. I mean, this is literally I think it's like his 14th NFC Championship game or something like that, or 14th championship game or something, potentially his 10th Super Bowl this year. Like the dude's amazing. But that team is very good as well, right? Like that team was solid last year with Jameis, and
Yeah,
you take away those turnovers, and they're even better this year.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, there's something that Brady's doing. Who knows what it is? Whether it's in preparation, but he's. I mean, it's only one season with another team, but to be that consistently in these games and winning them more often than not, it speaks for itself. It's more than just happenstance. Even if he's not getting it done on the field, there's something he's doing in the prep room that's getting the
oh
best out
yeah,
of his team as a leader.
I agree with that.
So I mean we're getting a little tight on time, so I just wanted to touch on last few things. So I mean it sets up Packers Bucs, uh, Tom versus the truest test of time going on the road in the cold to Lambeau. We'll see how that plays out. KC is hosting Buffalo. There's Mahomes questionable status if he will pass the concussion protocol. I think Josh Allen is dinged up as well, although I'm not sure if that's being reported completely. I did also want to mention Tony Romo in his broadcast stuck to his brand in being a thorn in my side that I'm going to continue carrying the flag for the anti-Romo movement. It was third and two from like Kansas City's 9, and and Romo expertly said that they might run a fake and go deep from the 9 yard line going in. So I mean, excellent analysis. You can't find anywhere else. And then also on the last drive, he said Chad Henne sent the Chiefs into the conference championship, and the ball was marked short. So I mean, he had a good laugh at his own expense there, but I'm just like, stay woke on Romo. Just everybody, all the capital J's, all the everybody else, just get off his jock a little bit. I mean, I guess he's entertaining, but come on,
He's significantly better than your favorite announcer.
and stop hating on Joe Buck. Stop hating on Collinsworth. They're fine. They're fine.
Yeah, they're fine, but Romo's just great. Like that's all that it is.
Okay, agree to disagree. The debate will continue. Also, I mean, we didn't get to mention the college football final last week, but I do want to touch on it here. I mean, the Tide rolls 52-24. This game was put out of contention pretty early. Devonta Smith had a huge first half. He got hurt, I believe, halfway through the game. I can't remember. Did he have another 200 200 yard game? It was
I
it
mean,
was
he had a
pretty.
200-yard half.
Yeah. Okay, I'm pulling up the stats right now. Bear with me, please. He had 12 receptions, 215 yards, 3 touchdowns. I do not know how there are people down on this guy. I mean, I guess it's his weight, but he won the Heisman Trophy. Like, you're saying he's not even the best wide receiver on his team. Supposedly Jalen Waddle's better. I know he was dinged up, but he got 3 for 34 in this game. I mean, I don't know, man. This guy seems like, I mean, I guess we'll see, but I am definitely higher on him going into the season than most.
Real quick, I'll give you the initial. We'll obviously get into this more later. The initial downsides to DeVonta Smith are his physical profile does not profile out to be a wide receiver one, like fantasy wise, historically. Also, this is another like historical thing, but really good players tend to not play their senior year. Right? Like this is why like age is such a factor in projections, and DeVonta Smith will be 23 next his pro season. Right? Which is I think DJ Moore is like 24.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think Juju's still like 21. Juju's like still super young. I don't think he's that young, but
like these are things. It's not. No one is saying. At least no one I've seen is really saying DeVonta Smith is going to be bad.
yeah.
What they're saying is that Jamar Chase checks more boxes of an elite NFL wide receiver than DeVonta Smith does, and that the reason you haven't seen a wide receiver season like this before, right? Is that the guys that could have put this season up left and went to the NFL already.
I gotcha.
Right?
Okay,
like, does that make sense?
I think that's valid.
Like,
I'll buy into the age thing more than his profile, his physical profile, because I mean, to me, that's the Durant argument, and Durant was pretty good in the NBA.
Yeah, but Durant's also one of one, right? Like, I think the argument is based on, like, if I'm drafting, do I want to bet that I'm picking the one guy out of one, or do I want to take the, like, 60% chance, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this guy, no one like this guy has ever happened before. Do I want to bet on him actually being a thing, right? Is really the argument. And the lowest I've seen anyone really have him is, like, 3 or 4. Right? Like, I haven't seen anyone have him, like, way down at, like, 6, 7, 8,
Yeah.
But
I'm excited. I hope he ends up a Charger. He will be the guy I'm targeting. But, I don't make those decisions. And, I mean, maybe he's the wrong pick. You make some valid points there, Jeff. Thank you for bringing up the age profile. I was not aware about him being a senior and being, 23. Or going to be 23.
He's 22. He turns 23 in November, right?
Gotcha.
So he's like 16 months younger than DJ Moore, who's been in the NFL for 3 years now. Right? So, like, that's kind of the argument too, is like, how good would DJ Moore be at Alabama? Right?
Yeah. Anywho, okay, so that's gonna wrap it up. I mean, congrats to the Crimson Tide getting yet another title. Congrats to Nick Saban for changing his whole offensive approach and building a team. It's not that long ago where seeing an SEC team put up 52 points would have been something that we would have expected to happen so routinely. So, I mean, hats off to Alabama. And their fans, and not my favorite team, but I mean, you gotta just tip your cap sometimes. Jeff, anything else before we get out of here, sir?
I mean, that's all I got. I'm excited to get into baseball and the NFL draft coming soon.
Ohio State, Browns fans, Venn diagram, all of you guys, enjoy your PF Changs this week, and we will catch you next week.
See ya.